what do you perceive to be the downstream consequences of the destigmatization of sex work, particularly in young women? So this warrants so much, and I will begin by saying that this not exactly about sex work, but that I've got an essay that should be published within a few days at this point. It's not yet out, on the evolution of sex and the evolution of love, and on what I'm calling a kind of sexual autism, which can be produced by basically being an avid watcher of pornography. So pornography and sex work are not entirely overlapping, but this movement that calls itself sex positive, which basically says, any sex at any time is inherently good, and sex work is inherently good, and we need to remove all stigma associated with it, has clearly been named in the same vein as many of these modern movements, such that if you resist it, it makes you seem like a prude. What are you, not sex positive? Are you sex negative? Do you not like sex? Well, no. So I would say, and this is an argument that we have both made, that the so-called sex positive movement is actually an anti-love, anti-connection, and really in a lot of ways an anti-sex movement, because it does move women, especially young women, into a mode that is more like one of the less honorable typical male modes, rather than us sort of being interested in a society and moving men and women both into a mode that is more like the ancestral female mode with regard to interest in long-term bond and commitment and healthy and wonderful and surprising sexuality.
Yeah, I would just say, in addition, that the sex drive is among the most powerful motivators in the human arsenal, and that the rendering of many readily accessible ways to scratch that itch is having totally arbitrary effects on society. It affects the way families form. It affects whether people are getting the right kind of emotional stimulation to feel healthy. It affects whether people are accomplishing important things that require, striving and risk-taking and all of these things. And basically, because sex is fun, people want easy access to it. But easy access to it is interfacing with what human beings are in a very negative way. And it is, I would think, it is spectacularly disempowering of women, that women effectively end up competing with things that provide satisfaction that don't involve any commitment at all, like prostitution and like porn and things like this. And so basically it is rendering the meaning in life much less meaningful. And so, that's a hard thing to say, because as you say, you're immediately understood to be a prude if you oppose this. And I would just say that the proper way to think about this involves thinking about tantric sex, which is obviously not prudish or sex negative, if that's even a thing. It's obviously extremely sex positive, but what it is about managing sexual desire in a way that heightens sexual pleasure, rather than, if sexual pleasure is good, then more and easier and, less meaningful. So, the sex positivity needs to be reinvented as something that is actually sex positive, rather than just something that is in favor of more quantity of whatever low grade sexual satisfaction is on offer.
That's right. And you used the word, if we had a one word answer to this question, you used it in that. So the question, again, just to wrap up, what do you perceive to be the downstream consequences of the destigmatization of sex work, particularly in young women? Disempowerment of women, and therefore really ultimately of everyone.